Hey, what's going on? This quick video is about science, right? And why I always say in the comment section, find what works for you. Science is not always 100% correct, right? And the reason why I say that is because I'm referring to the science, bodybuilding. And as much as I love, biochemistry, and I love science, I love biology, like I say, I'm a tutor. I'm in an academic setting all day long. That's my job. So I have to be objective a lot of times. I can't always tell students that I work with what my opinion is. I tell them my opinion, but I always tell them, hey, you make your decision. Here's my opinion. Here's the facts. You choose. And the reason why even, I can tell you science and I was correct because things change, right? Knowledge increases. The resources we use change. Technology changes. So it allows us to zoom in more on things that we observed in the past. So even though science changes, it doesn't change like fucking dramatically, right? It's always gonna be within like equilibrium, finding the balance between facts. Like I'm pretty sure 500 years ago, the science of, I don't know, whatever you pick, biology is not the same as it is now. That doesn't mean they were 100% wrong back then. It just means they were getting closer and closer to the point. Same thing with bodybuilding, building muscle, protein synthesis. From somebody who reads studies like 24/7 and who's always online and reading textbooks, I can tell you that you will not always see studies that have the exact same number and exact same data because they do these tests on based on averages, right? They pick a percentage of the population and they look for like margin of errors and things like that, like what's the difference between this guy and that guy, and then they look for the middle number. So it might not apply to you at 100%, but it's gonna be fucking close. You get what I mean? Like it's gonna be close. For example, they do a study on, like I put the other day, on biceps, right? They looked at what exercise activates the biceps the most, and number one was underhand chin-ups and barbell curls and things like that. That was based on the average population, right? So you might be the number one exercise for the average population, might be number 2 for you, right? Or number 3, but that doesn't mean that it won't be in the top 3. You get what I mean? Like you might be a little different than the average, but not that fucking different. At the end of the day, yes, we do have different genetics, but we all have a fucking bicep and a fucking tricep. You get what I mean? Like it's not that big of a difference. So the reason why I always tell people to balance science and bro science is because science tells you what they observed in the lab, what they observed based on a certain percentage of the population, which is good. It's a good starting point. But now you gotta balance it with your own bro science, with your own anecdotes, with your own experience, your own. When you go to the gym and say, okay, science says this, let me go try out my shit and see if I get the same result. It's up to you to use your experience to gauge the middle. You get what I mean? To gauge the middle point, and you'll be amazed at the gains that you made, right? Same thing with food. Science might tell you, the amount of protein that you need to build muscle is this, right? That just tells you that this is a good starting point for you. But then after that, you have to gauge and move the equilibrium until you see what really, what's the perfect number for your case, right? So science to me is a starting point, right? It's a guideline. It shows you where to start. Because without science, you won't know where to fucking start. You get what I mean? Like, let's say somebody tells you, oh, you gotta do 5 sets to get big. Another guy tells you gotta do 20 sets to get big. Another guy tells you you gotta do 40 sets to get big. At the end of the day, I'm making videos and this guy's looking at me funny. He's like, what the hell? This 8-year-old kid. He doesn't see the cameras. He just thinks I'm crazy. But anyway, another guy might tell you 40 sets to get big. Another guy might tell you fucking 100 sets to get big. Who's the advice you're gonna follow? You get what I mean? It's up to you to say, okay, fuck this. They're giving me so much information. Let me see what the science says, and let me use that as a starting point towards finding my balance. So then science might tell you 20 sets. So you go, okay, I'm gonna start with 20, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna go either up towards 40 or down towards 5. That's how you use science to finally come up with what works for you. Don't just follow science blindly, right? And don't just follow bro science blindly, right? You gotta use both to find your equilibrium, right? So as long as I keep this channel open, you will always find me making videos on studies and at the same time putting in my own bro science and telling you to come up with your own fucking results based on your own anecdotes. All right, so hope that clears out the confusion, right? Science is not evil and bro science is not evil, right? They all have their place, and in fact, before science started focusing on bodybuilding, motherfuckers like Arnold and Leroy Cobra and all these guys back in the days had to experiment and find what works for them. So they were living up bro science for a while and they got some crazy gains, So we should be a lot bigger now because we have the experience and we have the science, right? So use that and don't discriminate. Don't pick sides. Don't be a fucking extremist, all right? I'm out of here, guys. Oh, And so in conclusion, in order to get the answer to one specific question, whether it's to build muscle, to increase size of your chest, whatever, your bench press, whatever it is, here's what I recommend, right? Number one, look at what worked for you so far, right? Then compare that with what the science says, right? And also, even in the science, look at different studies. Then compare that with what the bro experts say, right? Then compare that with what the old brolic dude at the gym says, because he's been lifting for a long fucking time, right? And then compare that with what, you know, the average fucking, you know, YouTube population says, even forums, whatever. It's only when you look at many different sources that you can look for what they all say in common, right? Even if they give you different numbers, right? Look for what the average, what they all have in common, and you should be good to go. And last but not least, look at what Megan said. All right, guys? So remember, science is not always right, but at the same time, bro, science is not always wrong. They're each pretty fucking close most of the time. I'm out. Hey guys, going on? Really quick video. Top 3 protein sources for bodybuilders. Now, me and Hansa did this extensive study where we spent like 2 weeks literally looking at all the fucking nutrients, minerals, and whatever that a bodybuilder needs to optimize his muscle gains, right? I mean, we looked at everything, things that affect your hormone